Hey, this is the World Advice Channel too. What I want to talk about today is a question of could an African nation ever become developed? So for this video, I will discuss the question of if an African nation could ever become developed, like countries like the UK, America, Canada, France, and so on and so forth, when it comes to how developed it is, um, in a logical, rational way without any biases attached. Okay, so now that I mention that, let's get started. So when it comes to the topic of could an African nation ever become developed, the simple answer to that question straight away is yes. I do believe an African nation could become developed. The only thing that is actually holding back Africa, more than anything else, from what I have realized, more than anything else, whether it could be Nigeria, South Africa, Uganda, whatever you can imagine, is actually ourselves, or not even ourselves. More specifically, like the black community itself. Okay, to be quite more honest with you, because the truth of the matter is, when it comes to the black community, in all honesty, um, which I think makes more sense because when we say ourselves, it pretty much makes everybody accountable for, of course. It makes it sound like everyone's accountable. There's a lot of black people who are not like that, who don't act this way. But when it comes to a community-based level, yes, there is going to have to definitely be some um, recognition and understanding of taking accountability for what has happened. Okay, that is the truth of the matter. Okay, and when it comes to that topic, the black community as a whole needs to take accountability, because the truth of the matter is, when it comes to the black community, especially since colonialism has ended, in Africa, referring specifically to Africa, the truth of the matter is, the reason why it's not developing is simply due to the fact of how a lot of black people do work. Okay, because the truth of the matter is, as I'm certain you are all aware, we live in a money run world. So as a result of living in a money run world, okay, no surprise, to make money you have to do jobs. Okay, and when it comes to doing jobs, the best types of jobs are businesses, because you can work for yourself and so on and so forth, and not have to rely on other people who might not even treat you well, if anything. Okay, and that is the truth of the matter. And when it comes to that specific topic, a lot of black people don't do a good job, in honesty. If not a good portion, most, if anything, do not do a good job. Okay, for that matter. Okay, because the truth about a black community is, when we have jobs like businesses and stuff, which obviously gives us power, so we don't have to work with other people who don't even treat us well. I've always noticed that it always has these few basic things. The first one, absolutely, I have noticed, is simply the lack of punctuality. Okay, the lack of being able to actually show up on time when you actually are supposed to show up on time. Absolutely, this one is the biggest one, and, if to be quite blunt and honest with you, the most annoying one. Okay, it's extremely annoying. I don't find it funny or even cute. I just think it's extremely freaking annoying. And the truth of the matter is, when it comes to black people, when we run businesses and stuff, I notice you see this all the time. Okay, and obviously a good portion of what makes the economy grow, of course, is businesses, whether it could be anything from something as trivial as cleaning someone's someone's swimming pool, to going to someone's house, and of course, no surprise, being, maybe, for example, helping them with something that's of great importance, whether it could be their mortgage or even their bank account or something like that, or it could be maybe going to a place, in order to maybe do repairs on a car, that's broken down, and whatever you can imagine. The truth of the matter is, when you ask blind people to do it, they usually will show up late, and not even like late, like maybe like, you know, like at least, okay, like 5-10 minutes late, which is still irritating, but at least it's kind of more, understandable if anything, which being late is not understandable. It's not understandable, but at least it's more reasonable, okay? You know, they're not even going to do that. They're going to be showing up 40 minutes late, and that's if you're lucky, okay? And the truth of the matter is, when it comes to black nations, especially South Africa being a perfect example, when you want to work with someone, okay, whether it could be you go to them or they come to you, like, like you're like whatever you can imagine, okay? Like whether it could be repairing someone's house or this and that, or it could be something, of course, like you have to go to a business meeting or something. How is anyone really going to take you seriously if you're showing up 40 minutes an hour plus late on average? Who's going to take you seriously? And the truth of the matter is, whether people want to acknowledge it or not, Africa is actually extremely important. Not even just for the fact that it's a birthplace of humanity, but also for the fact that it is that it's also the birthplace of all the resources, or I should say, the location where all of the resources, most of the resources the world needs for electronics, of course, exists. In honesty, to put it bluntly, um, to be quite honest with you, okay, and that is the truth of the matter. Okay, is a place where most of the resources that the world needs exist for that matter. Okay, and obviously, no surprise, if you obviously have that much resources, and of course the world still relies on it, we're not even colonizing outer space, then of course you're gonna have people of different races and so on and so forth going into your nation. And as the truth of the matter, a lot of black people have to compete against other people, whether it could be anything, from that, like something related to resources, or even something like, especially in the case of South Africa, because different races live there as well, where you of course have to of course have people go to someone's house to fix something or something. You have different races of people who do that. How the hell are we going to compete against them if you guys are not showing up on time? And that's not even to mention a lack of organization. You tell them to do something, prepare for it, they're planning for it at the very last minute. They're not doing things on time, as well as they're overcharging things, which is extremely silly and stupid everywhere you go. And it's like, how the hell you're telling me you're expecting me to pay more money when I can go across the street to a place that's run by Chinese people and they're literally, selling something for way less money, but they're not even, for crying out loud, short on the things that you actually need. Like, what do you think is going to happen? And that's what I'm trying to say. And that's why so many black nations do not develop, you know and that is the truth of the matter. And when it comes to not comes to that, that's the reason why they don't develop, as well as the fact that why exactly are black nations so unorganized. I mean, black nations so unorganized, which a lot of the problems they have is because they're not organized. You tell them to do something, you need to understand basic logic. Like, for example, if we're gonna feed this many people, we're gonna do this particular thing. Like, for example, make sure there's this much electricity for this much people. We obviously use basic logistics. Like, for example, okay, we have to feed people. There's like, maybe, let's just say, for example, let's just make up a fact, maybe there might be 20 something million people in this nation, for example. Okay, how do you how and this everyday person needs as much food. How do we make sure this much food gets to these exact number of people? What are we going to do? And that's exactly what I'm trying to get across here. Okay, and that's exactly the truth of the matter, and that's why black nations don't develop. So in truth, to sum things up, we need to start taking accountability. We can't play this bullshit game of just blaming white people for everything. Yes, sometimes they do sabotage shit, specifically the powerful rich white people, but sometimes they do not. But sometimes it's actually, if not most times, to be quite honest with you, to be completely 100% honest, it's most times it's actually us, for that matter. And that's exactly what I'm trying to say. And that's exactly what I'm trying to get across here. Instead of just blaming white people for fucking everything, we need to have people in our community start taking accountability and actually showing up on time. So, in short, yes, Africa an African nation could become developed, in all honesty, if if they actually are organized and actually showing up on time, and just simply get rid of these annoying cultural habits that are actually extremely regressive. And that's the truth. So in short, yes, African nations could have become developed. It's just this bullshit that's been going on for easily over decades, for all even hundreds of years. That is something that needs to stop, and that is the truth of the matter. Okay, and that is all. Okay, so anyway, this is my video. I hope you enjoyed it. Just remember, if you like this video and videos like this, remember to thumb this video up and hit the subscribe button. And this is all to say, and simply put, I'm out. So bye.